If you ask anybody in the last 23 years to name a life simulation game, chances are they would likely name the Sims franchise. It has dominated the life simulation video game space since Windows 98 pretty much, and rightfully so. But now a new player has entered the arena, and all I gotta say is, it's about damn time! My name is Michael, and this is my very first video on this channel. Feel free to let me know how I did by commenting below once you finish watching. Anyways, I've grown up playing all kinds of video games, and I especially love life simulation and sandbox creation games. Video games like The Sims, City Skylines, Civilization, Prison Architect are definitely my kind of jam. I'm very big on and proud of not being totally loyal to one franchise or one gaming company. I'm all about the gamer's playing experience and the end quality of the video game. However, I definitely do respect the work that goes into creating video games. So thank you for letting me get through that introduction, and let's check out Life by You. Immediately, the Life by You trailer opens up telling us that it's going to be an open-world life simulation game. It makes me think that they are definitely coming for The Sims 4's next, since The Sims 4 is notorious for being the next installment in the Sims franchise that actually got rid of a key feature from its predecessor. For the record, I have never been a fan of The Sims 4, even when it first came out, so be prepared for that kind of a bias. And if you look at EA's work on The Sims 4 and The Sims 3, they have had a funny relationship with open world games, to say the very least, or at least in those franchises. Whereas with Paradox, this is a space that they are very comfortable in and have been successful developing for in the last 10 years. I also wanted to talk about the graphics here. In my opinion, graphics are always going to be a very touchy and contentious subject amongst players, and this is why. When The Sims 3 first released, everybody hated the graphics, but then got used to it. And the same thing happened when The Sims 4 was first released as well. In my opinion, I think that the graphics are fine, and that they feel more like an updated version of The Sims 3. Personally, I hated the graphics of The Sims 4, and I still do to this day. I personally felt like the artistic direction taken with The Sims 4 just wasn't pushed far enough, and that it was value engineered to looking like a slightly updated Sims 2 with its cartoony approach. On the other hand, with Paralives, I actually love that they took a really bold approach to their artistic approach, as it feels fresh and like they are committed to that artistic direction. Anyways, with Life by You, I already like the direction that it's heading in terms of the graphics, and if I was to compare it to another game, I would actually compare it to The Sims 3. But let's continue watching. May I take this time to remind you that EA is selling a whole stuff pack for like $10 dedicated to laundry? Yes, when I said I was a little biased against The Sims 4, I really meant it, and I'm not apologizing for it either. The lighting and the shadows seem very well done and advanced here. The one thing that I would be concerned with is the lookup table, or the LUT that's being used. The colors look a little too saturated. But if there's something that we have learned from this trailer, it's that the customization options seem limitless, and the assumption that I would make is that the world-scale color adjustments could be made in-game. As for the interiors and the furniture, it all beckons back to the Sims series, in my opinion, specifically from my experience playing the Sims series. It's very reminiscent of The Sims 3, but so far I'm impressed with all of the furniture and everything I've seen so far. So there was an interview with Rod Humble, and I'll cover more recent news at another time in a future video, where he talked about taking control over any NPC, including delivery drivers. I'm not sure why more people aren't talking about this. There's a whole bus in this trailer, and this kind of gets me concerned about the scale of the game, and I'm not talking about public transit in general. Using what I know now about Life by You and making some assumptions, there could potentially be a lot of logistics involved here, and I want to ask the following questions. Just looking at the bus alone, and assuming that it is a local bus and not a long-distance bus, there's going to be a need for an NPC human to drive the bus. Well then, do we also get to design the bus route and schedule? If so, would we then design how many buses actually run on that route? And then where do these buses park when the shifts are over? And then what about other forms of public transit? What I know now, and feel free to correct me in the comments below, is that if you can design full-on interactive jobs, I don't see how this level of detail couldn't be played in Life by You if a player wanted to. This leads me to be concerned about the true scale of Life by You and whether or not it would be feasible to essentially micromanage entire communities down to their conversations, and whether gaming computers can actually handle this. For the record, I did purchase the public beta, so I will find out myself more on this coming this September. But I'm just concerned that Paradox and Rod Humble may have bit off more than they could chew with a game of this size and magnitude. Don't get me wrong, I think it is super cool that there is so much freedom, but I also have to wonder how detailed the average player wants to play their games at, and if playing Life by You at its full scope is even possible. I didn't even get into how a bus transit company would be able to secure their funding, which could very well be yet another huge logistical branch that's possible to execute in Life by You, based on what's marketed to us. I recall the Sims 3 franchise being a little bit like this, where it was nearly impossible to play all features of every expansion pack within one world. In my opinion, it would really suck to come out with all of this marketing about the freedom to do whatever you want in your game, and then have to limit players with how they shape their in-game communities. I might be looking too deeply into this, but at the moment, Life by You is being marketed to us, the gamers, as a game where you get to decide how you want to play. What's funny about the conversations is that there are a lot of influencers saying that they likely won't use this feature, but nearly everyone has mentioned it, and I'm no different. In my opinion, this is where Life by You gets a little knocking futs from a creator's perspective. If you, the player, are okay with the graphics, you could theoretically run an entire show series on YouTube with this feature. If you've ever wanted to create your own show, like a game show, or I guess a reality show featuring human characters from Life by You, you can now create your own dialogue and scripts and film your humans interacting with each other. You could, theoretically, monetize on this feature alone if you have a series that people are invested in. Instead of having to insert captions, you could just have your humans do all the work for you while you record. And the crazy part is that you can customize your dialogue. Personally, I don't see myself using this feature, but I can also see this feature creating YouTube careers overnight. I kind of alluded to this question of mine when I was discussing the logistics behind the bus driver, but I will explicitly ask it here as well. How does the Life by You world function with the need for all of these jobs? From the bus driver to the shop cashier, a human needs to fill that job void, and I have to wonder how this is all balanced so that the player isn't forced to working out an in-game economy. And where would all of these NPC humans live? Just to share an opinion, the impression that I get from everything that has been released so far is that the player gets to choose how detailed they want to play Life by You at. Again, this is what I'm getting based on what's marketed so far. For example, I just think that it would suck to have to play a world where you would want to have your toddler babysat, but then there's no daycare because you, the player, didn't make one with humans that were hired as daycare worker NPCs. Personally, I would be fine with playing at that level of detail, but I know that a lot of players wouldn't like this scale of micromanagement. When the color wheel made its return, I just heard yet another nail being driven in The Sims 4's coffin. There were a lot of features that The Sims 4 gypped players out on with its release, and this was definitely one of them that was missed. What intrigues me about world customization is that the UI makes it look like the player can adjust the world while they are in game, and that seems to be the case within the trailer. The Sims 3 only ever released a Create a World beta that was both hard to use, frequently crashed, and was complicated to actually run in your game. I began building worlds in The Sims 3 because, like I mentioned before, with the release of all of The Sims 3 expansion packs, none of the worlds actually allowed you to play all of the features. I mean, have you ever tried creating a tomb or a dive spot in a world outside of the expansion pack it was introduced in? It's a circus, trust me on that. As the Life by You franchise kicks off, I actually think that a seamless world creator in-game will be very necessary to allow players to access all of its features as the franchise continues to develop. I like what I see so far, but I definitely need to know more about it, such as if there are any limitations to the number of lots you can have, or what the different community lots are like and how they function. I will create a future video sharing my questions and my hopes as well, so you can look out for that on this channel. Full disclosure, there are other screenshots that have been released showing sliders for creating a human. Overall, with the wardrobe, I'm not super impressed yet. What I am impressed with are the traits. Specifically, I'm curious about what each of the colors mean. If I were to make a guess, then the blue barred traits have something to do with the human's past, but I'm wondering how that would influence the behavior of the human in-game. We can also create traits as well, and if you listen closely, you can hear yet another nail being driven in the Sims franchise's coffin. Let's continue watching though. So this is where I can actually give The Sims 4 a lot of credit. They do have an excellent build mode, and I would say it's the best out of the entire Sims franchise. People have made entire YouTube careers out of just building using The Sims 4's build mode alone. Of course, you don't have a color wheel, nor can you customize a lot of things, but the build mode in The Sims 4 is pretty great. The Sims 3 had a good one as well, but not as good as The Sims 4, but that's just my opinion. And at this time, in my opinion, there's not enough being shown about the lock creator mode for me to make a judgment on this feature in Life by You. But I will say this, players will have high expectations, and they will expect the lock creator mode to be just as good as The Sims 4's, and probably even better. And with Paralives releasing looks at their own build mode, it shows that there is a lot of customization and freedom that players can have, depending on the gaming engine that is being used. I'm not seeing that here with Life by You, but hey, to their credit, they don't have to release anything further than a color wheel and some more robust customization options to make The Sims 4's build mode feel outdated, so long as Life by You's locked creator mode can do everything that The Sims 4's build mode can. In other words, The Sims 4 didn't create a very high bar to meet, and Paralives isn't near getting a beta or even an alpha version released to the general public in a timely manner. For those of you that have played the Sims 3 franchise, Life by You feels more like the proper sequel to The Sims 3, to me at least. Instead of the player experience just being a life simulator set in an open world, what Rod Humble and the Paradox team have done is they are presenting this gaming experience as such that if there is something that the player wants to happen, that they have given the player the tools to make it happen in-game, in Life by You. Speaking of Rod Humble, it is no secret that he had lead development roles on The Sims 2 and The Sims 3. What makes the partnership between Rod Humble and Paradox such a great fit for each other is that Rod Humble is a visionary when it comes to life simulation games, and Paradox understands that an engaged community can give you a competitive edge and give your games a super long shelf life. And if you want proof of that, just look at the City Skylines series. I'm a big fan and frequent player of City Skylines, and they developed that game with the modding community in mind. And in my opinion, the mods that were released with City Skylines gave that franchise nearly a decade's worth of longevity that other games struggle to compete with. And Life by You comes with a whole mod creator, as seen in the trailer, so it seems like they're going in the same direction that they did with City Skylines, in that kind of a sense. Overall, I am super excited for Life by You, and I have in fact purchased the early first release for September, like I mentioned before, since this game looks like everything I could have ever asked for. Paradox has honestly been on fire, releasing high quality games in the past that foster strong communities around them, and that's what makes me think that this vision would be realized based on what we have seen in the trailer. After all, this wouldn't be the first time Paradox performed a coup de grace on one of EA's franchises. I know that I'm a little late on getting an announcement video published, so thank you for turning back time to check this out. I have lots more videos on the way where I will be sharing more of my thoughts on the more recent news surrounding Life by You, some reviews of games that I have played in the past, and also some more of my thoughts on what I am excited for that's coming up. Unless something major gets released, next week I plan to really talk about this race to the next generation life simulation game, because right now the race is on and the demand is certainly there. Until next time, thank you again for watching, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, then feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you again, and have yourself a wonderful day.